Hey guys, welcome to DPX Radio Live with Stephanie and Lauren.
I'm Lauren, hey.
Tonight we're going to be talking to seminarian slash demonologist slash paranormal researcher James Annitto, and he'll be here with us in just a minute. So, DPX, Detroit Paranormal Expeditions, you know where to find us on Facebook and Twitter. Friday, we're doing a really cool investigation at Atwater by the park, where we'll be starting to create our beer with them, right?
Yeah.
So we're adding some special ingredients to make our special beer that we don't know that much information about, so sorry guys. And look out for our release party for that. It will be on Friday the 13th, so we'll keep you informed about that. I'll be going live with Eric Knapp on Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, so watch out for that interview. That'll be a great one. And I think we're going live on Friday from the brewery, too, during our investigation. So, hey, Tanya, thanks for tuning in. So we are going to add seminarian, demonologist, paranormal researcher, the lovely James Annitto.
So let me see if I do this right. Here we go.
Stand by, guys.
Oh, add. Here we go. You supposed to see him?
James, did you have to add us? Sorry, guys.
I added him.
No, I know. Oh. All right, so James will stay there, stay there. So James was just at Old South Pittsburgh. There he is. Hi, James.
Hello.
Welcome to DPX Radio. How are you?
Doing good. How about you guys?
Good. Can you see both of us?
I can. Can you see me? Oh!
Yeah. Not anymore.
Jeez. Need a phone
So,
stand.
James, I introduced you as seminarian, demonologist, paranormal researcher, and so welcome on with Lauren and I.
Thank you for having me on tonight.
Yeah. So, wanted to start off by talking about the investigation this past weekend at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital with Wayward Souls promotion. And our very own team members, Todd and Jeff, were there. Hey, Jeff. Hey. See you on there. How was that for you? How was the weekend?
Oh, boy. What a long drive, 15 hours to get there. But, I took the drive with my good friend Kevin Hart, who's a great ITC guy. And I've always wanted to go OSPH because my good friend Kevin Betzer from Deep South Paranormal always talked about it, when we started talking about being at this event. And, just all the hype, a lot of times you go to a lot of places and they have a lot of hype and, they don't live up to it, of course, because too many people have different perceptions of when they both days, Friday and Saturday night. Whoa, those we were having. You could watch a lot of the videos and see a lot of pictures people post about it, and man, what a night! It really was a cool place, and I hope to get back there soon, again.
Now, do you go in with a demonologist point of view, a paranormal investigator point of view, or do you kind of go in with your religious beliefs and how you're in the seminary part of it?
I try to go in open-minded. I try to go in with kind of no perception to anything because I could go in as a demonologist mindset. I can go in there as an investigator mindset, researcher, blah, 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 blah. But I got to try to make all those roles one role and use my expertise of the unknown because, who knows anything about the paranormal really, and try to do my best to be as genuine as I can be and try to get best data I can get. So when I go into those situations, I try to be very open-minded, and I try to look at multiple different points of views. You know, what was it really a ghost, or was it like something natural? You know, so I try to hit a lot of check boxes off just to make sure you know what I'm dealing with within the situation. But I can tell you the truth that OSPH, man, whew, I checked a lot of boxes off for me. It was a pretty interesting place.
So we have a lot of people that were actually at Old South with you last weekend watching. Were there any particular instances where something strange really happened, or anything specific stand out to you overall from investigating?
Well, I think it was the amount of different things that were occurring. You know, of course, somebody got scratched, which it doesn't always mean negative. It means somebody was trying to communicate with you. You know, scratches. You know, people getting anomalies, not orbs, anomalies on their photography. You know, I was part of a amazing REM pod session where a $5 bill, and we tried over and over again to replicate it. It was kind of flicked and moved around, and like it was crazy. You know, some EMF sessions that were crazy, and you know, audible voices, audible sounds. So I think everything, you know, I can't really pinpoint one thing that was crazy at OSPH that I would say, oh man, I think the whole entire 2 nights were pretty cool, of course, instead of the aspect of where, you know, there's times where the activity dies down and, of course, it gets boring. Any paranormal investigating, guys, is boring as hell sometimes. But other than those moments, you know, when those quiet times happen, you know, we were all able to talk and have a good time and get to learn each other's techniques and our personalities, and we all, you know, that weekend became a family. You know, I don't like to, you know, I try to talk about unity, but I think we definitely surpassed that idea of unification that weekend, and we all were working on the same cylinder.
That's wonderful. There's a lot of great people in different paranormal groups together. And I want to go back to
Sorry, guys.
I saw a lot of photos. You mentioned anomalies and different things happening. I went through a lot of the pictures that I saw posted from Tanya Brooker, who's on DPX, and Cheryl Carter, who I know from, you know, investigating around the Detroit area. I myself have found some strange anomalies in photos. One that even particularly looks like a man wearing a hat.
That's actually one of the sightings at that place, is the man with the hat. So it was interesting. Somebody possibly caught what has been known to be there and been sighted before, which is crazy. It kind of gives some validation.
So you should have a look. If you know Tanya Brooker from our group, you probably met her this past week.
I did.
Look at her picture. I'm telling you, you will see the man in the hat. It's crazy. And then at one point, Todd and Jeff from DPX went live, and I instantly picked up on an Emily or Amelia, and then it just so happened that Cheryl Carter caught an EVP on one of her applications that said Amelia.
Yeah.
And that for me was like validation. It was really cool.
No, definitely.
We really wish we could have been there.
You guys would have had a blast. But you know what? Like Jeff says, there's always a next time. And of course, you know, Todd, Jeff, and I, and a few other people have something within the plans pretty soon. So
very cool. Very cool. So
first and foremost, you're in the seminary. Studying to become a priest.
Correct, seminarian, correct?
Yeah, I'm a seminarian with the United States Old Catholic Church. To become a priest. You know, in July I'm to become ordained a deacon within the United States Old Catholic Church, which is a great honor. Been a lot of hard work. I've gotten there. You know, some would say tremendously fast, but you know, anything you put your mind to, you know, things can happen faster than they're meant to be. But I've been doing a lot of schoolwork, you know, a lot of courses, and it's, you know, it's a big thing in my life. You know, I kind of always wanted to be a priest, you know, kind of growing up, and because it was my anti-religious side of me, I kind of some aspects of, you know, wanted to rebel against religion, which I did. But there's, people want to be astronauts, police officers. I definitely wanted to be a police officer, was one of my other goals. But one of the hidden goals I ever had was to actually to further my religious studies because of how anti I was about it. And I wanted to prove myself wrong, aka why I got into the paranormal field. So, when I decided to face my fears, and Bishop Long, who's a great man and a great mentor and a great friend to me, kind of approached me and talked to me about it. I had to think about it, but it was a quick answer. And especially, for him to say that he would want to train me further after priesthood to become an exorcist, that's undeniable. That's knowledge. Knowledge is power, and to acquire that knowledge from a man like that, and from the seminary, and what pertains to the field of demonology, I couldn't say no to that. It's kind of like too much not to grab at.
Yeah. Do the other priests that are with you, do they look down upon that you're on, this paranormal field? Do they think that's not the way that we do things?
Well, there's old Catholics have a different mindset than some Catholics. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, entitled to what they read in the scriptures, even though sometimes it is blatantly misinterpreted. But no, the United States Old Catholic Church is very oriented to loving each other and loving the decisions we make, even though it might not necessarily be in the true judgment of what the Bible says. So, it is said to love a sinner. So even though we all sin every day, they still love me for who I am, and they support me, and that's what's magical about it. And it's a brotherhood, and a sisterhood, because we do have Reverend Mothers as well.
So James, what would you say your definition of demonology or studying demonology would be?
Basically what you said. Anybody technically can be quote a demonologist, like anybody can become a paranormal investigator. Demonology is just a study. There's no action to it necessarily, like the action that would pertain to being a demonologist beyond the study, which anything that has analogy, there's a study to it, right? Biology, demonology, angiology, so anything with analogy, there's always a study pertaining to it. But it's a study. Where the action comes into it is where the church, and mind you, I'm a demonologist by title, by past mentors that have given me that, but I'm not no in place recognized as a religious demonologist yet within the church. That will be probably when I become a deacon, and they will acknowledge me as a religious demonologist. But the action with it outside of the church is pretty much the mandate, where an investigating team comes in. They think that there's something evil there, or possibly demonic, possibly malevolent. They would call upon a demonologist, or they would call upon a church. The church would tell maybe a demonologist to go check it out, which is what the paranormal clergy does with Rich Valdez and Kat Lang and all them. And they would check it out before they would bring in Bishop Long or a clergy member in to either do a cleansing or exorcism, whichever. So that's what a demonologist technically does. We're the mediator between a team and the church.
So studying demonology, what's the different subject matter that you learn?
A lot of people just think it's learning about demons, but within the field of demonology, where I've learned under so many very great people that I can call friends and look up to, like a Carl Johnson, Keith Johnson, a Sandra Johnson, Father Bob Bailey, so on and so on. Bishop Long, who people I've worked with and look up to every day of my life. You just don't learn about demon names and how to summon them. People ask me, how do you summon a demon? I don't freaking know.
I don't know.
I learned, I've learned little dialects of Hebrew. I've learned little dialects of Latin, angel languages, things like that. Angelology, is a big thing. You have to understand the differences and interpretations of, a heaven or a hell. So there's many different things beyond a demon. You also learn the different levels of poltergeist, the different levels of a haunting. So you can determine what you're dealing with. You know, the people that go in, run and call and demon all the time, you know, they do a lot more damage than good. And, you know, as long as I've done this, and I've been in the field, you know, a little over 12 years now, I've only dealt with anywhere from 5 to, you know, 7 cases maybe of demonic infestation or oppression. And, you know,
Have
3
they all
cases.
been
Huh?
true? Do you think that they were all like real cases of that?
I would say 5 of the 7 cases, I could definitely say for a fact that I dealt with something that I could quote unquote call demonic. And, 3 of those cases were of a possession based situation where medical professionals were and had been involved, like a psychologist and medical professionals, like a primary care physician, where they, you know, they said there's nothing wrong with this person. And the other 2 times, you know, of course, were just very dark situations. And the other 2, I would say, out of the 7, you know, I still to this day kind of wrap my head around and try to still research to this day to understand what I dealt with, because there's a lot of negative spirits that really kind of blow their chest out and act like they are a demonic-like quality, but when you deal with a demonic situation, it's scary, you know. And there's many times where, you know, I've wanted to have the fight or flight situation. I wanted to flee the situation, but I always stayed and try to help the best I can until I brought, you know, some assistance to them, either by clergy or, you know, being an intermediate bandage to the situation. But, you know, it's scary, you know. And I would say like those 5 cases were definite, and they were very eye opening. They actually, you know, didn't detract me from religion or my faith. It actually made it stronger, and really understood why I got into this field of kind of denouncing God and trying to figure out if God really existed. You know, I got a little closer every time I dealt with one of those cases, because it really like kind of opened my eyes that damn, true evil does exist.
Yeah. And you're right when you said, I mean, there's a lot of negative spirits, even if they're just, you know, somebody's past uncle.
Yep.
And there's a lot that are advanced. And they can present themselves in a way that might make someone, maybe, I don't want to say uneducated because that sounds rude, but somebody might automatically just think, oh, it's demonic, it's poltergeist, it's because that's just what movies have taught most people to believe, or religion. And so that's interesting that you said that.
Well, you got to.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
You also got to understand, you know, when we intermediate in cases, well, for some people that, you know, do like myself, you know, there's a lot of people that just go in there like the Shining Knight in armor and just ruin everything, even though they call themselves a demonologist. But, you know, there's a lot of things that you can look at before you can say there's something demonic or even paranormal. You know, the DSM-15 that's used by psychologists and therapists. You know, you could don't read that book unless you really want to be drooling on yourself. But you can look at those things that pertain to how you can kind of see if they maybe have bipolar without diagnosing them, because you're not a doctor. So there's a lot of people that don't do that and don't look at the other options before calling it something evil. And that's the problem.
Yeah. From my point of view, and correct me if I'm wrong or if you have a different opinion, I think that there, you know, a lot of people don't understand how someone can become possessed. And I think that there's ways that people ask for it, if they may be dabbling in the occult or satanic worship, you name it. But then there's obviously people that it just happens to. Maybe they've been through a traumatic situation.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, when it comes to possession, or, you know, with the aspect of demons, there's usually 3 or 4 reasons. 3 technically by the right, and 4th with it, which is involved within the 1999 reversion. You know, where, you know, sacred objects, but, you know, clergy usually look at four things or 3 things, depending on what rite they use, to determine, of course, after they're medically tested and all that stuff. So, you know, to determine if, you know, what it is, it's kind of like determining what a ghost is. Do we really know? I don't know if that answers your question in some way, but yeah.
Do you believe in Ouija boards being some kind of portal for them to come through?
I won't take one.
There's a lot of controversy between
do
Ouija boards opening a door to be
well,
possessed.
Well, yeah, I would say, to kind of roll back, and I should have answered to that a little bit better, but, most times demonic entities target somebody that's weak, within themselves, mentally ill, depressed, socially anxiety. But divination tools do and have happened to open doors that people cannot control. When you dabble in things of the unknown, psychic mediums, I do believe exist. There's some that don't have the gift and some that do have the gift and some that have the gift and use it for the wrong reason, like channel and stuff like that. But Ouija boards, I've actually dealt with a lot of cases where they believe to be the primary reason of the situation. And in some of those cases, the Ouija board had something to do with it because of the intention of why they were doing it. If you have an evil intention to summon something, you might get what you ask for and you might not. So a Ouija board, a spirit board, it's a tool. Some people say they know how to use it. Some people don't know how to use it. I will never use one. I do know the intricates and how to use one, and seen people play with one, but I've never touched one, never planned to, because why am I going to talk about the subject about demons and then open myself up to allowing to be stupid and not know what I'm doing and open the door, but I can also relate it to I'm stupid too as an investigator, and investigate situations. The big thing about the Ouija board is you're using the planchette, using your hands and asking entity to move your hands. You're asking it to use you as a catalyst to move the planchette, which is the dangers. But as an investigator, when you have a recorder or a spirit box and you're holding it in your hand, or EMF meter, and you're asking this thing to come talk to the light or come in so it beeps and you're near it, you're asking it to come into your personal space. So what is the difference? You're putting yourself at the same opening of dangers that a Ouija board would. Just one is more dangerous because of the ability that you're asking spirit to control you, which is dangerous. Anytime you ask something to control you or use you, it could lead to many different doors.
Right. No, I mean, everybody is entitled to use what they choose to, but I personally won't ever touch one or be around one.
Me either.
That's my personal beliefs on that.
I lecture about it. The lecture is Ouija board, good or evil, and that's that. It's up for you to determine what it is. I can't say it's evil or good, because guess what? I don't know. I really don't. Nobody knows if it's good or evil. That people just had bad experiences, and some people have had no experiences. But
it's intention that I think is key with anything that you're doing. Whether you're using a Ouija board or you're a medium. If you have a good intention, then nothing should happen. So now we got into talk of demonic possession. First of all, hi, Jessica. Thank you for everything you just said. It's amazing. So, James, so after somebody's been medically evaluated, what are the first, so when somebody becomes possessed or they're becoming possessed, so we know there's attachment, oppression, obsession, possession. Is there a particular order?
Well, there's demonic doesn't it can attach, but actually the stages is infestation, oppressions, or obsession. It lingers between both have different stages to it. So oppression, the entity is very oppressive over the person. Obsession, the person obsesses about it and it has obsessive-like qualities. And then possession, and there's two different kinds of possession. There's full possession or transient possession or true or full possession. The transient possession, the demonic entity comes and goes. Full possession, the entity stays in the body for the full full remainder of the day, and controls the body for the full amount of time it wants to. So there's different stages, and to determine each one, it's very hard. Like when it becomes to a possession, an exorcist would do the 3 or 4 stages. Like I said, one stage would be knowing dead languages or languages that are very unknown, and when their criteria to it is not 1 or 2 words, and not like if I say a sentence in Latin right now, I'm possessed. They actually have to speak it fluently and have no knowledge of it. Second would be, beyond natural physicality, with drugs can give you those kind of strength. Adrenaline, if somebody's injured, can give you that strength, but something that is out of this world of strength, like 5 or 6 guys are holding this 72-year-old woman, and the 72-year-old just throws them around. There's the cases of that. A third one would be sacred objects. You give them holy water. You give them a bottle of water just to say drink it, and it's holy water and it burns or something like that. Or sacred objects where you put the cross to them, up to them, and they actually leaves the indentation of the cross through a burn or something like that. Or they don't want the sacred object. Yeah, that could be like schizophrenia or something like that. But when you have like those 3 or 4 definitely situations involved into it, and medical professionals have denied that there's nothing professionally wrong with nothing medically wrong with this person, and they've gone through multiple counseling sessions and multiple pre-ops and mental scans sometimes that is done to see if there's any chemical imbalance. And when that's thrown out the window, what is it? Really, what is it? You can't. People tell me that demons don't exist, but how can you say a medical professional says that it's not something a medical standard, and then just say demons don't exist or something of the nature doesn't exist?
Right. So you said you participated in about 7 cases of possession. How is it different from what the movies portray it to be? I mean, in movies, we see people's heads spinning, they're walking on ceilings, projectile vomiting, eyes rolling in the back of their head.
They're screaming and shouting in different languages, Latin.
Well,
mostly.
You got to remember, those movies are. There's some when those movies are made, there's producers and directors and all those people that make really good money that do actually ask for consultation from people that do this, like David Considine or Ralph Sarchie, who his movie was made on him. Deliver Us from Evil, based off of the movie, his book Beware the Night. So there's people that consult and give them things, but then there's things where, of course, the entertainment value, where they need to make money and they have the head spinning, the pea soup coming out. There's certain things where the movies do get right, and of course there's a lot of things that the movies also get wrong, just due to the entertainment aspect of it. It's kind of like paranormal television sometimes. Always make it seems like it's interesting, but or even after 4 or 5 hours investigating, we're like this. I need chocolate. But so it's the same thing, that just how it's portrayed, and the head spinning. There's been no documentation by any exorcist that's ever happened. So there's some things that you have to just look at and laugh at, but there's a lot of people that look at it and watch those movies and say, "Oh, that really happens," and it really doesn't.
Yeah. Now, is there one movie? I don't know. Do you care for horror movies?
I do. I actually I tend to watch those exorcism-based movies like The Rite and The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and I enjoy it. I don't know why. It just
Emily Rose one, I think,
is based on a true case. The Emily Rose one.
most of those movies are actually based on a true case. Like
Yeah.
the rights based on the life of the priest and some true stories, and so wasn't Deliver Us from Evil. Most of those are based on some loose interpretations. So isn't Exorcist, which is the first of them all. So there's of course definitely loose connections to true stories, but like I said, loose connections to true stories.
Right. Well, you have Amityville, which, you know, is based on a true story, and you have Ed and Lorraine Warren,
Yeah.
being, you know, their accounts being portrayed in a movie too. Now, have you ever followed any of their real stories or encounters?
Oh, definitely. As a studying demonologist, you know, Ed Warren is a man to look up to. You know, I never fortunately got to meet the man before his death, but you know, I've had the pleasure to meet Lorraine, and you know, many of her associates, that still, you know, represent her team, to this day, and they're very good people. You know, I've researched their work a lot, and of course, you know, one of the best books, you know, not written, but it's by Gerald, the Demonologist, portrays a lot. You know, it's of course The Conjuring. You know, fortunately, before The Conjuring came out, I knew of that story. Carl and Kate Johnson, who you know, I can call brothers and mentors, and you know, fellow demonologists, actually were the first people involved in the Perrin household, and actually the ones that got Ed and Lorraine to come. So even though they're not portrayed in the movie and don't give the due credit that is deserved, you know, I kind of grew up learning that story from them before it even became a motion picture.
Yeah. And is it Sheila Perron?
And,
She'll be in Flint in September here to
well,
talk about
Andrea.
Andrea, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said Sheila. Andrea,
She was the oldest child, if I remember correct. And she's the one that wrote the books, House of Light, House of Darkness, which is a great series.
Yeah, I'm hoping to go see her here in Michigan in September, and you know, hear the story, or some of it anyway, from her directly.
Yeah, you talk about Michigan Paragon, Brad Blair and Tim Ellis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Eric
great guys.
Wants us to ask you how much you like McDonald's.
Yeah, how much do you like McDonald's? What do you order?
I'll eat it if I have to, because you know, a man never says no to food. But yeah, I don't prefer McDonald's.
Never say no to fries. Maybe Eric's the one who likes McDonald's.
Well, we took a trip. We took a trip to the Hinsdale House. We did an event out there, and we went to the, you know, of course, I don't want to be disrespectful, but we went to the most ghettoest McDonald's ever, hole in the wall, and that was the McDonald's experience.
Okay. Thanks, Eric, for the laugh in between. So not only have we talked about people being possessed, but objects can be as well. For instance, Annabelle, the doll.
Objects can't be possessed. Animals and items can't be possessed. People can only be possessed because we contain free will. So when a demonic entity possesses an individual, it's because we have intelligence and free will.
Yeah.
A demonic entity can attach to an object and an animal, but they cannot. But they can't possess. You know, so when people say, you know, Annabelle was possessed by a demonic entity, incorrect. She was. Annabelle has a demonic attachment, or suppose a demonic attachment, which the demonic entity controls Annabelle, of course, for just parlor tricks, but to also to make its weight. You know, there's a spirit supposedly, you know, a demonic entity attached to the item. So, yeah.
I mean, we have the Dybbuk box, the Conjuring chest, Annabelle. Why are they all dolls that demons attach themselves to? I don't understand that. Just to creep us all out.
In some aspect, it's you know, when people hear about conjuring and summoning, when you're a person, you try to conjure and summon things, you don't have control of what you're conjuring or summoning, because it wants you to believe you have control. But sometimes where people, and of course this is always open for debate, people are allowed to, you know, take an entity and fuse it into an item so that its soul or its being is trapped within a doll or something like that. But sometimes you think about it, a demonic entity would want to attach to something that is sweet and innocent. And because it is a silent assassin, so what better way to attach to a doll or something so sweet and innocent looking instead of maybe like a T-Rex or something like that, so that's another reason why they try to play off the innocences of life and then consume you.
Well, I think too, and people can disagree with me, and it's not always the case, not 100% at all, but
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of child spirits aren't necessarily child spirits. I think they like to form that way to gain your trust.
Well,
a lot of the
well, by Catholic standards, of course, or technically by what people interpret as within the scriptures, all spirits are technically demons. Technically, once you die, your soul goes either to heaven, purgatory, or hell, right? So, technically, all spirits we tend to deal with might be messengers of God, which is a possibility, or demonic entities that fell with Satan. Of course, there's loose interpretations of that, but anytime you deal with a spirit, you don't know what you're dealing with. And if it's a child spirit, you definitely take precautions. But I will always take precautions, even if it's a child spirit, if it's an adult spirit. I always take precautions with my line of communication.
Okay. So, is there anything that you're willing to share about some of the cases that you were on?
You've never witnessed an actual exorcism. I know we talked to people on.
I have not. Usually, exorcisms are contained to clergy members and family members. So basically, when an exorcist comes in, there's an assistant, there's an exorcist, and usually the assistant's either a deacon, a clergy member, or a lay person, which is a normal person that's belongs to the church team, and the family there to holding down the individual that is under the possession. So no, I've never seen one because I was technically not part of the Catholic Church at that point in time when I dealt with those. So I was excluded because of my lack of belief in Catholicism and the rite.
Well, the cases you were involved in, was there any commonality that you saw between them?
There's always commonalities, but there's a lot more differences than you would think within those cases. You try to understand and relate to past cases, but in some of the times there's no relations at all, and you actually have to decipher the case from bottom to top. And to understand what you're dealing with, a demonic entity in its truest and rare form, of course, because they're rare, are very hard to interpret with what you're dealing with. People that go into houses and say, "Yeah, you're dealing with a demon." It doesn't take like that. There's been times where I've taken months, even a year, to decipher a case to see if it was actually truly demonic or not. So it's really hard. It's really hard to decipher.
I have a question, but Eric has a question first. So Eric wants to know, what's the scariest thing you've seen from a demonologist point of view?
My funny response will be people, but my scariest point of view would have to be probably my first possession case. To this day, it will always kind of stay embedded in my brain, and what I saw really kind of actually messed me up for many months, and really kind of stepped away for a little bit, because what you see is not what you expect the first time. You see these movies like we were talking about earlier, but when you actually see it and you're in that room and the heaviness, and of course, I don't relate to any title of psychic medium, sensitive, or anything like that. My body has been accustomed to the energies that is everyday life, and I know when people are good or bad moods, because I can just feel it off of them. But in that kind of case, it's so heavy. It's utmost heaviest. It feels like you're drudging through mud, and you barely can breathe. Your heart's racing. The fight or flight is in your brain the whole time. You don't want to be there. So that's the scariest thing. At first acknowledging that there's something that truly exists that is true evil, even if it's called a demon or not. That was the scariest thing, hands down.
I can't imagine. Just thinking about it. I have a weird question.
Yep.
Is it true that if a demon ever presents its name to you, that you don't repeat it?
That's more intention, like we talked about. It's intention. If you have bad intention to use the name, then yeah, it's bad. But not necessarily. Actually, when a demon doesn't give its name out without force. When an exorcist is asking for its name, it has to beat the living crap out of it for it actually to give its name. And sometimes the demonic entity actually lies with giving its name, and you have to keep going at it. You don't always need its name to expel it, but a demon won't give its name up very easily. It's very hard. So, getting a name and then and saying, like, I'll say one right now, Beelzebub. Oh my God, is there a demon? Where is it? It's bad. It's
There's
intention.
the demon that comes through the Ouija board on Ghost Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Don't repeat his name. Ryan Buell on Paranormal Stage, and I'm not calling anybody out in particular. It's just something I've seen. He's come into contact with different demonic situations, and he's had experiences himself with it. He writes it down on paper, and they'll even say, like, don't view this right now if you're uncomfortable, or he won't repeat the name. So I don't know if it's just a power thing.
We say every day, I bet there's millions of people every day that say Satan, Lucifer, so it's crazy to me. Like, some people have that superstition, some people have that belief. I don't. I don't give any power to a demonic entity when I say its name. I say it because I'm studying, or I'm talking about the subject, which requires for me to bring up names. But as long as it's not in bad intention.
How many do you know?
Huh?
How many do you know?
What demonic names?
Yeah.
What, you want a spelling bee right now? but
Roundabout.
I know quite. There's many. There's some that are entertainment based. I would have to say I know a handful.